Dim the lights, get comfortable, and allow your mind to drift back through the mists of time. Tonight you'll experience life as a Viking Shieldmaiden, a woman warrior whose courage and skill would become the stuff of legend. Close your eyes as we journey to the cold, rugged shores of Scandinavia during the Viking Age, where your story begins. The crackling hearthfire warms your skin as you settle in. Outside, the wind whispers through pine trees, carrying the scent of salt from the fjords. This is your world, a world of honour, battle, and destiny. A world where some women chose to take up arms alongside men, defying expectations and carving their names into the sagas of their people. What if you had been born beneath the watchful eyes of the Norse gods, destined to wield shield and sword rather than distaff and loom? What if your name was meant to be spoken with both fear and reverence around distant hearthfires? Tonight, that is your story. As your breathing slows and your body relaxes, imagine the life that could have been yours. A life of extraordinary challenge and remarkable freedom, where the boundaries between traditional roles blur beneath the northern lights. A life where your strength would be tested against the harshest elements and the fiercest warriors. Let the gentle rhythm of this tale carry you towards sleep as we begin your journey as a Viking Shieldmaiden. From your first breath in a smoke-filled longhouse to your final battle cry that echoes through eternity, this is your saga. The first sound you hear is the deep, resonant chant of the Völva, the seeress who attends your birth on a bitter winter night in the Norse year of 863. Outside, snow blankets the settlement, and the wind howls like wolves at the door of the longhouse. Inside, the air is thick with wood smoke, and the sharp scent of herbs, mugwort and juniper, burn to ward off evil spirits during your difficult delivery. Your mother lies on a bed of furs, her face gleaming with sweat despite the winter chill. She is Sigrid, daughter of Thorvald, known throughout the settlement for her fierce spirit and skill with a bow. Your father, Bjorn Ironside, stands nearby, his massive frame silhouetted against the firelight, his hand gripping a spear as if enemies might burst through the door at any moment. He has prayed to Frigg and Freya for your safe arrival, though in truth he had hoped for a son. When you finally emerge into the world, your first cry is strong, a warrior's cry that silences the longhouse. The midwife lifts you up, your tiny body slick and red in the firelight. "A girl," she announces, and there's a moment of silence before your father steps forward. The Völva's eyes widen as she takes you in her gnarled hands. "This one," she whispers, her voice cracking with age. "This one bears the mark of the Valkyries." She points to a birthmark on your shoulder, shaped, she claims, like Gungnir, Odin's spear. She will not sit at the loom. She will stand in the shield wall. Your father's disappointment at having a daughter transforms into something like wonder. He takes you in his battle-scarred hands, surprisingly gentle as he lifts you toward the smoke hole in the roof, presenting you to the gods. The northern lights shimmer above, green and purple curtains dancing across the night sky. An omen, the elders later say, of a life that will burn bright and fierce. "I name you," your father declares, his voice carrying through the longhouse. "After my mother, who once fought alongside my father and saved his life in battle." That night, as you nurse at your mother's breast, the settlement celebrates your arrival with mead and tales of great warriors, both men and women, who have brought honour to your clan. Your mother strokes your head and whispers promises of the life ahead. Not the life of spinning and weaving that awaits most girls, but one of sword songs and shield walls, if that is what you choose. Outside, the snow continues to fall, blanketing the world in silence. Inside, the fire burns low, casting long shadows across the carved wooden posts of the longhouse. You sleep, tiny fingers curled into fists, unaware that your fate has already begun to take shape, like a blade on a grindstone, sparking against the stone of destiny. Your earliest memories are of warmth and movement, the crackling hearth at the centre of your family's longhouse, the gentle rocking of your cradle made from a shield your father took in battle, and the constant bustle of daily life in your coastal settlement. The longhouse is a world unto itself, with its high, smoke-blackened rafters and earthen floor packed hard by generations of footsteps. By the time you can walk steadily on your own 2 feet, you're already learning the rhythms of Viking life. Your days follow the sun and seasons rather than any marked hours. You wake with the household at dawn, the air inside the longhouse thick with the smell of sleep and wood smoke. Your mother stirs the embers of the central hearth, while your father and older brothers prepare for the day's work, fishing, farming, or raiding, depending on the season. Unlike other girls your age who are already being taught to card wool and help with cooking, you find yourself drawn to the weapons rack near your father's high seat. One morning, when you're barely 5 winters old, your father catches you struggling to lift his sword, a magnificent piece of pattern-welded steel, nearly as long as you are tall. Instead of scolding you, he laughs, a sound like distant thunder, and kneels beside you. "Too heavy for you yet, little Valkyrie," he says, using the nickname that has stuck since your birth. But not forever. He places a small wooden knife in your hand instead, your first weapon, carved from ash wood and polished smooth. Your mother watches this exchange with a mixture of pride and concern etched on her face. That night, as she combs your hair before bed, long, wild strands the colour of wheat fields in autumn, she tells you stories. Not just the usual tales of gods and giants that all children hear, but specifically of shield maidens and warrior women. Hervor, who claimed her father's cursed sword, Lagertha, who fought alongside the legendary Ragnar, and others whose names are spoken with respect around the fires. There have always been women who choose the path of the warrior, she tells you, her fingers gentle in your hair, despite the calluses from bow and blade. It is not an easy path, but it is there for those with the will to walk it. Daily life in your settlement is a blend of hard work and simple pleasures. You learn to swim in the cold fjord waters almost before you can walk properly, your small body quickly adapting to the shock of the chill. You help gather eggs from the chickens that scratch in the dirt around the settlement. Learn which wild berries are safe to eat, and watch carefully as the adults prepare food, repair tools, and craft the necessities of life. Your toys are simple: carved wooden animals, dolls made from twisted straw, and small boats that you float in puddles while imagining great voyages across the sea. But unlike many girls, you also treasure your wooden weapons, the knife your father gave you, a small shield painted with your family symbols, and a blunt wooden sword that your oldest brother carved for you on your 6th birthday. Winter nights are for stories and learning. As snow piles high outside and the wind moans through the settlement, your family gathers around the hearth. Your father and his friends boast of battles and raids, their voices growing louder with each horn of mead. Your mother and the other women work wool into thread by the light of fish oil lamps, their fingers never idle. You sit, eyes wide, absorbing everything. The runes carved into posts and tools, the songs of heroes, the practical knowledge passed down through generations. One night when you're 7 winters old, a skald, a travelling poet, visits your settlement. His face is weathered like old leather, and his fingers dance across his harp strings like spirits. He sings of a shield maiden who fought so fiercely that Odin himself came to watch her battle, disguised as a one-eyed old man. When he finishes, his rheumy eyes find you in the crowd. "There sits another such warrior," he says, pointing a gnarled finger at you. "I see the weave of your fate, little one. You will carry shield and sword to distant shores." The adults laugh. It's common for skalds to make such pronouncements to please their hosts, but something in his steady gaze makes you believe him. That night you dream of ravens circling overhead and the clash of steel against steel. Your childhood is not all dreams of glory, however. You learn early that Viking life is harsh. During your 8th winter, famine grips your settlement after a poor harvest. You know hunger for the first time, the constant gnawing emptiness that makes even sleep difficult. You watch as the elderly and very young grow thin and weak. Some do not survive to see spring. When the ice finally retreats and the first fishing boats return heavy with cod, you understand something essential about your people. Survival requires strength. Yes, but also community. Everyone has a role to play, and those who cannot contribute in traditional ways must find other paths. This lesson settles into your bones alongside the knowledge of runes and sagas, a foundation for the woman warrior you will become. Your formal training begins in your 9th summer, though in truth, you've been preparing for this moment since you could first lift your wooden knife. The morning is bright, the air carrying the scent of salt and pine as your father leads you to a clearing beyond the settlement's edge where the older boys train. Heads turn as you approach, curious eyes taking in the sight of a girl joining their ranks. Your father silences their murmurs with a single raised hand. "My daughter will train with the sword," he announces, his voice brooking no argument. "She bears the mark of the Valkyries. The Velva has seen her path." The weapons master, old Hakon One Eye, studies you with his remaining eye, the other lost long ago to an Anglish spear. His face is a map of scars, each with its own story. After a long moment, he nods once, a sharp gesture like the strike of a hawk. "We begin with stance," he says, as if it's the most natural thing in the world to train a girl alongside the boys. "Before you learn to kill, you must learn not to fall." Your first day of training leaves you aching in places you didn't know could ache. Your palms blister from gripping the wooden practice sword. Your legs tremble from holding the proper stance for hours, and your arms feel as heavy as stone. But something has awakened inside you, a fierce joy that burns brighter than the pain. That night, you fall asleep still clutching your practice sword, your dreams filled with the rhythmic patterns Hakon taught you. High guard, middle guard, low guard, strike, block, step. Days blend into weeks, weeks into months. You rise before dawn to run along the fjord's edge, strengthening your legs and lungs. You carry buckets of water up the steep path to the settlement, building the strength in your arms and back that you'll need to wield shield and sword together. You learn to fall without injury, to roll and rise in one fluid motion, to stand your ground against opponents larger than yourself. Not everyone approves of your path. Some of the women click their tongues disapprovingly when you pass, your hair wild and your knees dirty from training. "She'll never find a husband," they whisper, not quietly enough. "What man wants a wife who thinks herself a warrior?" Your mother hears these whispers too. One evening, as she helps tend to your blistered hands with a salve of beeswax and herbs, she speaks of her own choice. "I chose to be a wife and mother," she tells you, her fingers gentle on your calloused palms. "But I never set aside my bow. In the raid 3 winters before your birth, I stood on the palisade and sent 5 Saxons to their deaths. Your father respects my skill as I respect his. Remember this, a shield maiden chooses her own path in all things." By your 11th winter, you've outgrown your first practice sword. Hakon presents you with a new one, heavier and longer, sized for your growing frame. "You're ready," he says, the closest thing to praise he ever offers. Your training expands beyond the sword. You learn the axe, both the heavy bearded axe for shield breaking and the lighter throwing axe that can fell an enemy at a distance. You practice with spear and knife, with shield and sayax. Each weapon becomes an extension of your body, a tool with its purpose and rhythm. The most difficult lesson comes on a crisp autumn day when Hakon blindfolds you. "In the chaos of battle," he says, tying the cloth tight around your eyes, "you may lose your sight to blood or smoke. Your ears and skin must become your eyes." He circles you slowly, the only sound is breathing, and the soft crunch of leaves beneath his feet. Then without warning, he strikes, a light tap with his practice sword against your ribs. "Dead," he says flatly. Again and again he kills you until frustration burns hot in your chest. But slowly you begin to sense him. The subtle shift in air pressure before a strike, the whisper of leather against leather as he moves. By sunset, you've blocked 3 of his attacks in succession. When he removes your blindfold, the fading light reveals something new in his weathered face. Respect. Your training isn't limited to weapons. You learn to read the weather from the clouds and wind, to navigate by stars, to identify medicinal plants that might save your life on campaign. You memorize the sagas of great warriors. For as Hakon says, a warrior who doesn't know history is doomed to die from old mistakes. The boys who once snickered at your presence now regard you with cautious respect. You can hold your own against most of them, and those you can't yet defeat, you study carefully, learning their patterns and weaknesses. One boy in particular, Leif, the shipbuilder's son, becomes both your fiercest competitor and closest friend. 2 years older and a head taller, he never holds back in your training bouts, which you appreciate more than any false courtesy. "When we're grown," he tells you one day, after knocking you into the dirt for the 3rd time, "we'll go raiding together. The skalds will sing of us." He helps you to your feet, and you immediately sweep his legs from under him, sending him sprawling. "Yes," you agree, standing over him with your practice sword at his throat, "but they'll sing of me first." His laughter rings out, genuine and warm, and you feel a different kind of warmth bloom in your chest, the first stirrings of a complication you hadn't considered in your warrior's path. By your 12th year, your father deems you ready for your first real weapon. The smith has been working in secret for weeks, and when you enter his forge, the heat and sulphur smell enveloping you like a blanket, he presents you with a sayax, a single-edged knife, smaller than a sword, but larger than a common utility blade. The handle is wrapped in leather and set with a small amber bead, and your name is etched in runes along the blade. "A warrior's first true companion," your father says as you test its weight and balance. "May it taste blood only in necessity and honour." That night, you sleep with the sayax under your pillow, its presence both a comfort and a promise. You are no longer just a girl with dreams of battle. You are a warrior in training, a shield maiden in the making, and soon, very soon, you will prove your worth. Coming of age. The years between 12 and 15 pass in a blur of intensified training, growing responsibilities, and the first real tests of your resolve. Your body changes, growing stronger but also curving in ways that sometimes feel at odds with your chosen path. While other girls your age begin to focus more on domestic skills in preparation for marriage, you divide your time between necessary household tasks and rigorous combat training. Your mother ensures you don't neglect the practical skills any Viking woman needs: brewing ale, preserving food, basic healing, and yes, even some weaving and sewing. A shield maiden who cannot mend her own gear is at the mercy of others. She reminds you when you grumble about sitting still for such tasks. You come to appreciate these quieter moments as opportunities to rest your battle-weary muscles while keeping your hands productive. Hook 7. Your first blood comes during a training session with Leif, now 17 and nearly a man grown. The monthly bleeding begins unexpectedly, staining your trousers as you spar. When you notice, heat rises to your face, not from shame of the natural process, but from the fear that the others might now see you as less of a warrior. Leif notices your distraction and lands a blow that sends you sprawling. As the other boys laugh, he helps you up and whispers, "My mother says Freya's blood makes women stronger, not weaker. Don't let them see your doubt." His words, surprisingly wise, stay with you, as your mother later explains the cloths and herbs you'll use during your monthly time. "The goddess has blessed you with the power to create life," she tells you. "That same power gives you strength to take life when necessary." At 14, you experience your first real raid, though not as a participant. Your father's ships depart at dawn for the eastern lands across the sea, leaving the settlement defended by the very young, the old, and those like you, skilled enough to fight, but not yet deemed ready for a full raid. 3 days after the raiders' departure, a rival clan seizes the opportunity to attack your seemingly vulnerable settlement. You're collecting water from the stream when the warning horns sound. Dropping your buckets, you race back to find a group of 20 warriors breaking through the settlement's wooden palisade. With your father and most of the men gone, the defence falls to those who remain. Your mother appears beside you, bow already strung, her face set in grim determination. "Stay close," she orders, notching an arrow. "Remember your training." The next hours are a chaos of shouting, smoke and blood. You fight alongside women who have set aside distaffs for spears, old men who thought their fighting days long past, and boys not yet grown to manhood. Your Sayax, until now used only for practice and daily tasks, tastes blood for the first time when a bearded raider corners you between two buildings. Your training takes over. You duck his wild axe swing and drive your blade up under his ribs. His hot blood spills over your hand, and his eyes widen in surprise, perhaps at being killed by a girl, before the light leaves them. There is no time to process what you've done. The battle continues until the attackers, finding your settlement far better defended than they expected, retreat with their wounded. When it's over, you help tend to your own wounded and gather the dead. That night you sit alone by the shore, scrubbing your Sayax and your hands clean in the cold salt water, trying to reconcile the elation of survival with the sobering weight of taking a life. Your mother finds you there, her own hands raw from the same cleansing ritual. Without words, she sits beside you, her shoulder against yours, and together you watch the stars emerge above the dark water. You understand then that this silent communion is part of a warrior's life too, the quiet reckoning that follows battle's chaos. When your father's ships return laden with trade goods and plunder, the tale of the settlement's defence greets him. That night, at the feast celebrating both the successful raid and the settlement's victory, he raises a horn of mead to those who fought. "My daughter," he announces to the gathered clan, his voice swelling with pride, "has blooded her blade in defence of our home. She has proven herself a true shield maiden." Hook 8. The traditional coming-of-age ceremony for a shield maiden is both similar to and different from that of male warriors. In your 15th summer, you undergo the rituals that will mark your transition from girl to woman warrior. For 3 days, you fast in the small stone sweat lodge at the settlement's edge, purifying your body and communing with the gods. The vulva attends you, burning herbs that send your mind spinning into visions, ravens circling a distant battlefield, the flash of sunlight on water, a shield splintering beneath your axe. Whether these are glimpses of your future or merely hallucinations from hunger and heat, you cannot say. On the 4th day, weak but spiritually awakened, you're led to the sacred grove where the ceremonial tattoos will be applied. The pain of the bone needle driving ink beneath your skin is intense, but you do not cry out as the symbols of protection and strength take form on your forearms. Knotwork patterns interwoven with runes, invoking Thor's protection and Freya's fierce aspect. These marks will identify you as a warrior to all who see them, a permanent declaration of your chosen path. The final part of the ceremony takes place before the entire settlement. Dressed in your finest clothes, your new tattoos gleaming with healing salve, you kneel before the clan's leader, your father, as he presents you with your first true sword, not the practice weapons of childhood, or the Sayax you've carried these past years, but a proper warrior's blade, pattern-welded steel, with a hilt wrapped in leather and set with a small piece of amber. "Rise, shield maiden," your father intones, using your formal title for the first time. "May your arm be strong, your eye clear, and your heart fierce. May you bring honour to our clan in battle and wisdom to our councils in peace." As you stand, sword in hand, the settlement erupts in cheers and the pounding of shields. You are no longer a girl playing at war. You are a shield maiden, a warrior woman of the north, ready to make your mark upon the world. The path ahead will not be easy, you know this, but as you raise your new sword to the sky, catching the light of the setting sun on its polished edge, you feel ready for whatever challenges await. That night, as the celebration continues around you, Leif finds you at the edge of the firelight. Now 19, he has already been on 2 raids and wears a gold arm ring, marking his status as a proven warrior. He studies your new sword and tattoos with appreciation. "It suits you," he says simply. Then more quietly, "My father's building a new ship. When it's finished in the spring, I'll be sailing with the first raid to the Western Islands. I've asked that you be considered for the crew." Your heart quickens at his words. The Western Islands, your first real raid, your chance to prove yourself beyond the boundaries of your settlement. You meet his gaze, noting how the firelight catches in his beard, fuller now than the wispy growth of earlier years. "Thank you," you say, meaning it deeply. In a world where many still doubt a woman's place in the shield wall, his support has never wavered. He nods once, then rejoins the celebration, leaving you to contemplate the horizon that awaits you when the spring winds return. You are 15, a woman grown by the reckoning of your people, a shield maiden recognised by oath and ritual. Your childhood is behind you. Ahead lies the open sea, distant shores, and the clash of steel that will forge your legend. First raid. The winter passes slowly, each day spent in preparation for the spring raid. You train harder than ever before, determined to prove yourself worthy of the place Leif has secured for you on the crew. Your sword becomes an extension of your arm, your shield a trusted companion. You run along the frozen shoreline each morning, building endurance for the battles to come, and spend evenings studying maps drawn on scraped calf skin, memorising coastlines and river mouths. When the ice finally retreats from the fjord and the first migratory birds return, the shipbuilder declares the new vessel ready. She is beautiful, 70 feet of oak and pine, her prow carved into a snarling dragon's head, her sides lined with overlapping shields. She is named Vogeskjærf, Wave Cutter, and watching her slide into the water for the first time, you feel a tightening in your chest. This ship will carry you to your destiny. The day before departure, you make offerings at the small shrine to Njord, god of the sea and sailing, and to Tyr, god of warriors. Your mother helps you pack your sea chest with spare clothes, your healing kit of herbs and bandages, and the small wooden amulet of Thor's hammer she carved for you as a child. That night, unable to sleep with excitement, you sit by the dying embers of the hearth, running a whetstone along your sword's edge until it gleams in the low light. Hook 9. Dawn breaks clear and cold on the day of departure. The settlement gathers at the shore as 40 warriors prepare to board. You're the only woman among them, though this isn't unheard of, just uncommon enough to draw glances. Some are sceptical, others curious, but none dare question your right to be there after your father's formal recognition of your status. You wear your hair braided tightly against your head, practical for battle and seafaring. Your armour is leather reinforced with iron plates across vital areas, lighter than a full mail shirt, but offering decent protection while allowing the mobility your fighting style requires. Your sword hangs at your hip, your shield slung across your back, and a throwing axe tucked into your belt. The weight of these weapons, once so foreign, now feels as natural as your own limbs. The shipmaster, a weathered veteran named Gunnar Widebeard, eyes you critically as you approach the gangplank. "You'll pull your weight like any other," he growls. "Seasickness or woman's troubles won't excuse you from rowing or fighting." "I wouldn't expect otherwise," you reply, meeting his gaze steadily. Something like approval flickers across his face before he turns away, bellowing orders to the rest of the crew. You find your assigned place on the rowing bench, next to Leif, who grins at you with undisguised excitement. "Ready to make the skalds earn their meed?" he asks, nudging your shoulder with his. Before you can answer, the command comes to cast off. Oars dip into the dark water, and Vogeskjærf glides away from shore, the rhythmic drumbeat setting the pace for your strokes. You don't look back at the diminishing figures on the shore. Your gaze is fixed forward, toward the open sea and the adventure beyond. The first days at sea are a harsh education. Your muscles scream from the unaccustomed labour of rowing for hours. Salt spray stings your eyes and chaps your lips. At night you sleep fitfully on the hard deck, wrapped in your cloak against the biting wind. But gradually your body adapts. You find the rhythm of shipboard life. Rowing, resting, helping prepare the simple meals of dried meat and hard bread, taking your turn at watch. The crew's initial scepticism about your presence fades as they see your willingness to work without complaint, and your skill during the daily weapons practice Gunnar insists upon. "Idle blades grow dull," he reminds everyone, "and dull blades make shallow graves." On the 6th day, the lookout spots land, the Western Islands, home to monasteries rich with gold and silver, defended by monks who believe their god will protect them. As Vogaskiev approaches the rocky coastline, Gunnar gathers the crew. "We strike at dawn," he announces, pointing to a small bay near a stone building visible on the headland. "They'll have seen our sail by now, but they have few weapons and less skill. Remember, take the valuables first, captives second. Any man who wastes time on rape before the wealth is secured answers to me. That night, you can barely contain your nervous energy. This is what you've trained for since childhood, your first true test as a shield maiden." Leif finds you at the prow, staring at the distant pinpricks of light from the monastery. "Worried?" he asks quietly. "No," you lie, then amend. "Yes, not about the fighting. About failing, freezing, shaming myself and my family." He nods, understanding without judgment. "Before my first raid, I vomited over the side until there was nothing left in me. Then I killed 3 men the next day." He places a hand on your shoulder, warm and steady. "You won't freeze. You're the fiercest warrior I know, man or woman." His confidence steadies you. You spend the remaining hours before dawn checking your weapons and armour, running through the fighting forms in your mind, and offering a silent prayer to Freya, asking not for safety, but for courage. The attack comes with the first light of day. Vogaskiev beaches with a jarring thud, and the war cry goes up, a wall of sound designed to strike fear into your enemies' hearts. You find yourself roaring along with the others as you leap into the shallow water, shield raised, sword drawn. The cold water shocks your system, fully awakening every sense. Time seems to slow as you charge up the beach toward the monastery, where panicked figures can be seen running for safety. Your first real battle is a blur of sensations. The impact of your shield against a desperate man wielding a farming tool. The surprising weight of your sword as it meets flesh rather than practice targets. The copper smell of blood mingling with the salt air. The shouts and screams that seem both immediate and distant. Your training takes over, your body moving through the forms drilled into muscle memory through years of practice. You find yourself inside the stone building, where monks in rough woolen robes attempt to hide their treasures. One swings a heavy wooden crucifix at your head. You duck beneath it and strike with the pommel of your sword, knocking him unconscious rather than killing him. A valuable captive will fetch a good price. Another rushes you with surprising courage, a small knife in his hand. This one you cannot spare. Your sword opens his chest before you can even think about it. The battle is over quickly. The monastery yields rich treasures, illuminated books bound in gold-decorated covers, silver chalices and crosses, finely woven tapestries. The surviving monks are bound and gathered for transport back to your homeland as thralls. You stand in the courtyard, blood drying on your armour, breathing hard as the reality of what you've just done settles over you. Gunnar finds you there, his beard splattered with blood, a sack of treasure slung over his shoulder. He studies your face for a moment. "Your first?" he asks simply. You nod, unable to find words. "You fought well. Clean your blade before the blood pits it." This practical reminder snaps you back to yourself. You wipe your sword carefully on a piece of cloth torn from a fallen monk's robe, checking the edge for nicks before resheathing it. Only then do you notice the shallow cut on your forearm, received sometime during the fighting, without your awareness. Your first battle wound, it will leave a scar to accompany the story. The raid continues down the coast, striking 3 more settlements before turning homeward. With each battle, you grow more confident, more certain in your movements. The fear never entirely disappears. You've seen enough to know that even skilled warriors can fall to bad luck or a moment's inattention, but it transforms from a paralysing force to a sharpening one, heightening your senses and reflexes. By the time Vogaskiev turns her dragon prow toward home, you've earned your place among the crew. Your share of the plunder includes a silver arm ring, 2 captives who will serve as thralls in your family's household, and most precious of all, respect. You've blooded your sword on foreign shores, and will return not as a girl playing at being a warrior, but as a proven shield maiden with your first raid behind you. As the familiar coastline of home appears on the horizon, you stand at the prow, the wind tangling your hair, salt crusting your eyebrows. You are changed. Harder in some ways, more certain in others. The settlement will celebrate your return with feasting and the sharing of plunder, but you know the greatest treasure you bring back is invisible. The knowledge that you have walked the path of your choosing and found yourself equal to its challenges. The Shieldmaiden saga continues, and now your name will be among those mentioned when tales are told around winter fires. This is just the beginning. The years following your first raid bring a swift ascension in status and skill. Between the ages of 16 and 20, you participate in at least one major expedition, each summer venturing further with each voyage. Your reputation grows with every successful return, every display of courage and cunning in battle, every scar earned and enemy defeated. Your fighting style evolves into something distinctly your own. Where many warriors rely on brute strength, you develop techniques that use your opponent's force against them. You become known for your lightning-fast strikes, your ability to find gaps in even the most heavily armoured foe, and your uncanny talent for remaining standing when others fall. In the shield wall, that crucial formation where warriors lock shields to create an impenetrable line, you prove yourself as steady as any man, despite your smaller stature. It's during a raid on a Frankish coastal town in your 18th summer that you earn your battle name. The fighting has pushed inland, away from the ships, when a mounted contingent of Frankish soldiers appears, threatening to cut off your raiding party from their escape route. While others hesitate, you sprint forward alone, directly toward the charging horses. The Franks, expecting you to flee like your companions, are unprepared when you slide beneath the lead horse, hamstringing it with your sword as you pass. The beast crashes down, throwing its armoured rider. In the confusion that follows, your fellow Vikings rally and drive back the Frankish forces. That night, around the victory fires, Gunnar Widebeard raises his horn to you. "Hail the horse fella," he bellows, and the name sticks, a mark of respect that follows you home and spreads through neighbouring settlements. Your prowess brings material rewards as well. By your 20th year, you've accumulated wealth that would be impressive even for a male warrior of similar age. Silver arm rings and brooches, a fine mail shirt taken from a Frankish officer, a necklace of amber and glass beads, land of your own within the settlement, and 2 thralls to work it. Your weapons are no longer merely functional, but things of beauty, as well as death. Your sword's hilt now wrapped in silver wire, with a pommel set with garnet. Your shield painted with your personal emblem, a raven in flight against a blood-red background. With increasing status comes a voice in the thing. The assembly, where free people gather to settle disputes and make decisions affecting the community. At first, some of the older men grumble at a woman, especially one so young, speaking in council. But your measured words and tactical insights, proven effective in multiple campaigns, gradually earn their grudging respect. You become known not just for your fighting skill, but for your strategic mind. The horse fella sees what others miss becomes a common phrase when your advice proves sound yet again. Your personal life evolves alongside your warrior's path. Leif remains your closest friend and most trusted battle companion. The bond forged in childhood training and strengthened through shared combat experiences deepens into something more complex. On a moonlit night after returning from a particularly successful raid against Pictish settlements, he presents you with a finely crafted knife, its handle carved from whalebone. "I had it made in Hedeby," he tells you, watching your face as you examine the exquisite workmanship. The pattern in the blade matches your arm tattoos. The gift is personal, thoughtful, more than a simple token between warriors. That night beneath the stars on the hillside overlooking the settlement, your relationship transforms from friendship to something more intimate. Yet both of you understand that marriage, at least in the traditional sense, is not part of your immediate future. Your path as a shield maiden comes first, his ambitions as a warrior and future ship captain likewise. Still, a bond is formed, one that accommodates your shared love of freedom and adventure, while acknowledging the deeper connection between you. Not all men are as accepting of your chosen role. As your fame grows, so too does the attention from would-be suitors, some who see claiming the famous shield maiden as a prize that would enhance their own status. One such man is Gorm Blacktooth, a warrior from a neighbouring settlement with a reputation for cruelty and an ego as vast as the sea. After watching you best 3 men in a friendly weapons competition during a midsummer gathering, he approaches you, his breath heavy with mead. "You fight well for a woman," he says, his tone making the words an insult rather than praise. "But wouldn't you rather bear strong sons than swing a sword? I could give you that life, a proper woman's life." The gathering falls silent, all eyes turning to witness your response. You smile, a cold expression that doesn't reach your eyes. "I already have a proper life," you reply, loud enough for all to hear. "One where I choose my own path and my own bed companions. Neither will ever include you, Gorm Blacktooth." His face darkens with rage and humiliation. "No man wants a wife who thinks herself his equal," he spits. "Then it's fortunate I've no interest in being your wife," you counter, turning your back on him, the ultimate dismissal. The incident creates an enemy, but it also cements your reputation as a woman who will not be swayed from her chosen course by either threat or persuasion. In the sagas now told about you around distant hearthfires, this exchange is often recounted, usually with even more cutting remarks attributed to you with each retelling. Your most significant achievement comes in your 21st year, when your settlement's Jarl, recognising both your tactical mind and your growing influence, appoints you to lead a small raiding party of your own. 5 ships, each with 30 warriors, placed under your command for an expedition to the rich trading posts along the eastern routes. It's an unprecedented honour for one so young, especially a woman, and not all are pleased with the decision. The night before departure, you find Leif waiting at your door, concern etched on his features. "Gorm has been speaking against you," he warns. "He says he'll not follow a woman's orders, even in battle. 3 others from his clan stand with him." You consider this information carefully. Leadership, you've learned, is as much about managing the complex web of loyalties and resentments among your own people as it is about defeating external enemies. "Then they needn't come?" you reply after a moment. "I want only those who choose to follow me. Tell them they're released from this expedition with no shame attached." It's a calculated risk. By offering them a dignified way to withdraw rather than challenging their disrespect directly, you avoid creating a deeper division while still maintaining your authority. By morning, Gorm and 1 other have taken the offer to stay behind. The other 2, perhaps fearing to be associated with such obvious cowardice, present themselves at the ships, faces carefully neutral. The expedition proves enormously successful. Your fleet returns laden with silver from the eastern trading posts, having suffered minimal casualties thanks to your careful planning and bold but calculated risks. The sagas will later tell how you negotiated with Slavic chieftains in their own tongue, an exaggeration. You knew only a few crucial phrases, and how you outwitted a larger force of rival Vikings through clever use of terrain and false signals. Upon your return, even those who doubted your leadership must acknowledge your success. The Jarl honours you with a feast where you're seated at his right hand, a position usually reserved for his most trusted advisors or honoured guests. As the Skald composes a verse celebrating your victories on the spot, you realise you've crossed a threshold. You are no longer merely a curiosity, a woman who chose the warrior's path, but a leader whose gender has become secondary to your accomplishments. That night, as celebrations continue around you, you slip away to the quiet shoreline where you began this journey years ago. The same stars wheel overhead, the same waves lap at the rocky beach, but you are transformed. The girl who once dreamed of glory while swinging a wooden sword has become a woman of power and consequence, a shield maiden whose name is spoken with respect throughout the Norse lands. Tomorrow will bring new challenges. There are always more battles to fight, more horizons to cross, more sagas to live. But tonight, you allow yourself a moment of quiet pride in the path you've forged through will and steel and courage. The gods have favoured you thus far, and with their continued blessing, your name will echo through the ages alongside the greatest shield maidens of old. The harshest test of a Viking's mettle often comes not in the clash of swords, but in the bitter embrace of winter. As your 22nd winter approaches, unusual omens appear. Ravens gathering in unprecedented numbers, livestock behaving strangely, and most telling of all, squirrels frantically gathering more nuts than anyone can remember seeing before. The elders predict a winter of exceptional severity, and preparations begin with urgent intensity. You've known many winters, but leadership brings new responsibilities. The success of your Eastern expedition has cemented your position as one of the settlement's most respected figures. Now, alongside other leaders, you must ensure your people's survival through the coming months of cold and darkness. The first snows fall earlier than anyone can remember, blanketing the settlement before the last of the harvest is complete. You organise expeditions into the forests, leading hunting parties through increasingly treacherous conditions. Your tracking skills, honed through years of pursuing both game and human enemies, prove invaluable as you follow the trails of deer and elk through snow-laden woods. On one such hunt, you spend 3 days tracking a massive elk through a blinding snowstorm, finally bringing it down with a perfectly placed spear thrust. The meat from this single beast will feed several families for weeks, and you return to the settlement, pulling the carcass on a makeshift sled, your clothing frozen stiff, your face wind-burned but triumphant. As the days grow shorter and the nights longer, life contracts to the interiors of longhouses. Your own dwelling, built with the wealth from your raids, is smaller than the Great Hall, but still spacious enough to house you. Your 2 thralls, and occasionally Leaf, whose own family's longhouse is overcrowded. The central hearth burns constantly, though fuel must be carefully rationed. Smoke fills the upper reaches of the space before finding its way out through the hole in the roof, leaving everything and everyone smelling perpetually of wood smoke. Daily survival becomes a constant battle against the elements. Each morning, you must dig through snowdrifts that sometimes reach the eaves of buildings. Water freezes in buckets overnight. Livestock must be tended in their shelters, precious feed distributed with careful calculation to ensure it lasts until spring. You establish a rotation for these duties, ensuring the burden is shared equally among all able-bodied members of the community. The physical challenges of winter are matched by psychological ones. Confined together in close quarters for months, people's tempers fray. Minor irritations grow into festering resentments. As a leader, you find yourself mediating disputes as often as you once swung your sword in battle. Fighting among ourselves only helps the winter kill us. You remind 2 men ready to come to blows over a perceived slight. Save your strength for enemies who threaten us all. To combat the creeping despair that winter brings, you organise activities to keep minds and hands occupied. Weapons are maintained to gleaming perfection. Hunting tools are crafted and repaired. The women teach you more advanced techniques for working wool and flax, skills you once disdained, but now recognise as essential knowledge for any leader who must understand all aspects of survival. In return, you instruct interested women in basic defence techniques, how to wield a knife effectively, how to use household implements as weapons if raiders should come while the warriors are away. Storytelling becomes the primary entertainment during the long, dark evenings. Gathered around the hearth fires, people share sagas of gods and heroes, tales of ancestors, and personal exploits. You contribute your own stories of battles and distant lands, carefully balancing truth with artful embellishment, as any good storyteller must. Children listen wide-eyed as you describe the towering stone buildings of Frankish towns or the exotic goods seen in eastern markets. Midwinter brings the darkest days and the most important celebration, Yule. Despite the hardships, your settlement prepares to honour the gods and ensure their favour for the coming year. You personally lead the hunt for the great Yule boar, tracking it through forests so silent and still they seem enchanted. The successful hunt is seen as a good omen, and the massive beast becomes the centrepiece of the feast. The celebration lasts for 3 days, with sacrifices to the gods, excessive consumption of food and drink saved specifically for this occasion, and solemn oaths sworn over sacred rings and weapons. You make your own oath, promising Odin a special sacrifice if he grants your people survival through this brutal winter. It's during these Yule celebrations that you notice something concerning. The settlement's food stores are depleting faster than anticipated. Careful inventory reveals that even with strict rationing, supplies may not last until spring. As one of the leaders, you must make difficult decisions. We must send some of our people to the coastal settlements, you announce at the council meeting. The fishing will be dangerous in winter seas, but starvation is a certainty if we remain as we are. Your proposal meets resistance. Travelling through deep snow to the coastal villages will be perilous, and there's no guarantee those settlements have food to spare. But you hold firm, volunteering to lead the expedition yourself. I've navigated worse conditions in raid and battle, you remind them, and I've built goodwill with the coastal Jarl through past trading. With 10 volunteers, including Leif, who refuses to let you face such danger alone, you set out after Yule when the days have begun to lengthen again, however imperceptibly. The journey that would take 3 days in summer requires 8 in these conditions. You travel on skis fashioned from pine, pulling sleds loaded with valuable trade goods, amber, furs and crafted items to exchange for food. The expedition proves as harrowing as expected. One night, huddled in a hastily constructed snow shelter as a blizzard rages outside, you find yourself questioning your decision. The wind howls like a pack of wolves. The cold seeps through furs and woolen clothing to chill your very bones, and you wonder if you've led your companions to their deaths. Leif seems to sense your doubt. In the dim light of your small oil lamp, he reaches for your hand. "We would have died anyway if we'd stayed," he says simply. "At least this way we die trying." His pragmatism, so typically Norse, steadies you. By morning the storm has passed, and though one of your party suffers frostbite that will claim 2 of his toes, you press on. The coastal settlement, when you finally reach it, initially seems reluctant to part with precious winter stores, but your reputation precedes you, and the Jarl, a shrewd older woman who has held power for nearly 2 decades, agrees to trade after you offer a particularly fine silver arm ring from your personal treasures. "The horse feller's word is known to be good," she says, studying you with keen eyes, "and we may need allies before winter's end." You return to your settlement with sleds laden with dried fish, seal meat, and whale blubber, enough to supplement your dwindling supplies until spring. Your successful mission further cements your status as not just a warrior, but a provider and protector of your people. As winter slowly releases its grip, your settlement has suffered. 3 elders and 2 infants have not survived the season. But compared to the devastation reported from other communities, you've fared remarkably well. Your leadership during this crisis earns you a different kind of respect than battle prowess alone could provide. When the first green shoots push through the melting snow and migratory birds return to the fjords, the settlement holds a Thanksgiving feast for those who guided them through the killing cold. Your name is among those honoured, and as mead flows freely for the first time in months, you reflect on how the warrior's path has led you to this unexpected role. Not just a taker of life in battle, but a preserver of it through the hardest season. The lessons of winter will serve you well in campaigns to come. You've learned that sometimes the greatest victories are not won through strength of arms, but through foresight, determination, and the will to endure when all seems darkest. These are the qualities of not just a shield maiden, but a true leader of your people. Your 23rd summer brings an unexpected challenge, one that cannot be overcome with sword or shield. As your fame spreads throughout the Norse lands, you become not just a warrior of renown, but a valuable political asset. Marriage proposals begin to arrive from jarls and chieftains of neighbouring regions, each seeking to forge an alliance with your settlement through bonds of matrimony with its famous shield maiden. The first such offer comes from Hakon the Red, jarl of a prosperous settlement 3 days' sail to the north. His emissaries arrive bearing lavish gifts: silver, amber, finely woven cloth, and a magnificent sword with a hilt of walrus ivory. They present these to your father, as tradition dictates, though everyone understands that you, with your status and independence, will make your own decision. Jarl Hakon offers 30 pieces of silver as bride price, the lead emissary announces formally in the Great Hall. He pledges that you may continue to raid and fight as you choose, that your property will remain your own, and that any children born will carry both his name and yours. It's a generous offer, one that acknowledges your unique position as a shield maiden, rather than attempting to confine you to traditional, wifely duties. Your father looks to you, his expression carefully neutral, though you can read the calculation in his eyes. An alliance with Hakon's settlement would bring significant advantages in trade and mutual defence. "Tell Jarl Hakon I am honoured by his interest," you replied diplomatically. "I will consider his proposal alongside my other obligations to my people." It's neither acceptance nor rejection. A warrior knows when to delay a decisive engagement until conditions are more favourable. The emissaries seem satisfied with this response and depart with promises to return for your answer after the raiding season. No sooner have Hakon's representatives departed than word arrives of another suitor, Ivar Blackbeard, a notorious Viking leader whose fleet has terrorised coastlines from Francia to the distant southern lands. His reputation for brutality precedes him, though he's also known for the immense wealth he's accumulated through his raids. His proposal comes not through formal emissaries, but is delivered by a skald who performs in your great hall one evening, slipping the marriage offer into a poem celebrating your exploits. The performance ends with Ivar's promise: "Join with me, shield maiden, and together we will carve our names so deep in the world's flesh that they will never be forgotten." The offer creates immediate tension within your settlement. Some counsel that an alliance with Ivar would bring protection. His enemies would become your enemies' enemies. Others warn that his ambitions and cruelty would eventually bring destruction down upon you all. You listen to these debates in the Thing with growing frustration, aware that while your martial prowess is respected, you're now being viewed as a political token to be exchanged. Leif watches these proceedings with carefully concealed concern. Your relationship has remained undefined, neither formally pledged to each other nor free to form other attachments. One night, as you walk along the shore, discussing the latest marriage proposal, this one from a Danish merchant prince, he finally speaks his mind. "You know I would claim you if I could," he says, skimming a stone across the dark water. "But I have neither the wealth nor the political advantage these others offer." The simple honesty of his statement touches you more deeply than all the elaborate proposals and promises from powerful men. Yet you both understand the realities of your world. Marriage is rarely about personal desire alone, especially for those in positions of influence. "I haven't accepted any offer," you remind him, "nor do I intend to be claimed by anyone, like a prize mare at market." He smiles at that, the tension between you easing. "The horse fella remains untamed," he says, using your battle name with the affectionate teasing only he could get away with. The matter comes to a head when Gorm Blacktooth, your old adversary who once insulted you at the midsummer gathering, returns with his own proposal. Now the leader of his own settlement following his father's death, he presents himself with a new arrogance, offering a bride price so extravagant it causes murmurs throughout the Great Hall. "I've come to understand the value of a shield maiden wife," he announces, though his eyes betray his true feelings. Together, our settlements would command respect throughout the Norse lands. You recognise the proposal for what it is, not a genuine desire for alliance, but an attempt to subjugate you, to claim victory over the woman who publicly humiliated him years before. The thought of being bound to such a man, regardless of promises about your continued freedom, turns your stomach. That night you seek counsel from the one person whose wisdom you trust implicitly, your mother. Though aging now, her mind remains sharp, and her understanding of political manoeuvring unmatched. You find her weaving by lamplight, her fingers still nimble despite the arthritis that has begun to gnarl her joints. "You've received proposals from 3 powerful men," she says without looking up from her work. "Each offers advantages to our people. Each would restrict your freedom in different ways. What does your heart tell you? She nods unsurprised. Then you must find a way to decline that doesn't create enemies we cannot afford. Together you craft a response that will preserve both your freedom and your settlement's diplomatic relations. The next day you address the thing yourself, standing tall in your finest clothing, your sword at your hip, and your battle honours visible in the tattoos and scars that mark your skin. I'm honoured by the attention of such worthy men, you begin, your voice carrying to every corner of the gathering. Each proposal has been considered with the seriousness it deserves. However, before I bind myself in marriage to any man, I have sworn an oath to the gods to complete a quest in their honour. This is not, strictly speaking, a lie. During the terrible winter, you did indeed promise Odin a special sacrifice in exchange for your people's survival. You've simply never specified what form that offering would take. Until this oath is fulfilled, I cannot in good conscience accept any marriage proposal, regardless of its merits. To do so would risk bringing the gods' displeasure upon not just myself, but any household I joined. It's a masterful solution. No Norse leader, however ambitious or arrogant, would willingly invite divine wrath by pressing a marriage alliance that might anger the gods. Religious obligation trumps political expediency in your society. Even Gorm, with obvious reluctance, must accept this explanation. How long will this quest take? He asks, suspicion evident in his tone. You meet his gaze steadily. As long as the gods require. Their timelines are not ours to question. The matter is settled, at least temporarily. The suitors depart, though you've little doubt they'll return eventually. For now you've maintained both your independence and the complex web of alliances necessary for your settlement's security. A victory as significant as any won on the battlefield, though achieved through words rather than weapons. Later, as you share mead with Leif, and watch the sunset paint the fjord in shades of gold and crimson, he raises his horn in a toast. To the cleverest shield maiden in the Nine Worlds, he says, eyes twinkling. May your quest for the gods take exactly as long as you wish it to. You clink your horn against his, grateful for his understanding and support. The path you've chosen is not an easy one, balancing personal freedom against communal responsibility, martial prowess against political necessity. But it is yours, forged through your own strength and will, and you'll defend it as fiercely as any territory won in battle. The marriage proposals have made one thing clear. You are no longer simply a warrior who happens to be a woman. You are a political force, a symbol, a potential alliance embodied in human form. How you navigate this new battlefield will determine not just your own fate, but potentially that of your entire people. It's a responsibility as heavy as mail and as sharp as steel, but one you're increasingly prepared to bear. Your 25th year brings the conflict that will define your generation, a massive struggle between rival alliances of Norse settlements that historians will later call the Fjord War. The tensions that have been building for years finally erupt when Ivar Blackbeard's forces attack and destroy a settlement allied with your own. The attack breaks several peace treaties and signals Ivar's intention to dominate the entire coastal region. Word reaches your settlement through a lone survivor who arrives by boat, severely wounded and half dead from exposure. As he's tended to by healers, he gasps out the details of the massacre. How Ivar's forces struck without warning at dawn, killing the warriors, enslaving the women and children, and burning the longhouses to the ground. An emergency thing is called, where your Jarl announces what many have long suspected. Ivar has formed an alliance with several other ambitious leaders, including your old enemy, Gorm Blacktooth. Their combined forces represent the greatest threat your people have faced in living memory. We must form our own alliance, the Jarl declares, or be picked off one by one. Messages are dispatched to friendly settlements, including those led by Harkon the Red, who once sought your hand in marriage. The response is swift. They too have recognised the danger and agree to stand together. Within days, representatives from 7 settlements gather in your great hall to plan their defence and, if possible, a decisive counterattack. During this council of war, you find yourself increasingly at the centre of strategic discussions. Your reputation as both a raider and a tactician has spread, and leaders twice your age seek your opinion on battle plans. When debate arises over whether to adopt a defensive posture or launch a preemptive strike against Ivar's forces, all eyes turn to you. You rise slowly, conscious of the weight of the moment. The firelight catches on the silver arm, rings that mark your status, and the scars that testify to your experience. Ivar expects us to cower behind our walls while he gathers his full strength. You begin, your voice calm but carrying to every corner of the hall. He knows a lengthy siege favours him, with his greater numbers and resources, but there is another way. You move to the central fire pit, where a rough map has been sketched in the packed earth of the floor. With the point of your knife, you indicate a narrow fjord, where intelligence suggests Ivar's fleet will gather before their main assault. Here is where we strike, not at his full force, but at his ships while they are anchored for the night. Without their fleet, his alliance fragments. Coastal raiders without ships are just men with axes, easily isolated and defeated. The boldness of the plan causes murmurs around the hall. It's risky, a night attack by sea against a superior force, but the potential reward is enormous. After intense debate, the Allied leaders agree to your strategy, with one condition. You must help lead the attack yourself. The Horsefeller conceived this plan, Hakon the Red declares, using your battle name. Let the Horsefeller see it executed. Preparations begin immediately. Every available ship is made ready, 14 in total, a formidable fleet, but still smaller than Ivar's reported 20 vessels. Warriors from all 7 Allied settlements are organised into strike teams, each with specific targets and objectives. You work closely with the ship captains, including Leif, who now commands his own vessel, to ensure everyone understands the complex timing required for the plan to succeed. The night before departure, your mother helps you prepare for battle. As she has done before every major conflict since your first raid, she braids your hair tightly against your head, a practical style that will keep it from your eyes during combat. But this time she weaves thin strips of red cloth through the braids. For luck, she explains, though you both know it's more than that. Red is the colour of blood, of sacrifice, of Odin's favour in battle. It marks you as one who may not return. I'll see you at the victory feast, you promise her, trying to keep your tone light despite the heaviness in your chest. You've never faced a battle of this magnitude before. You will, she agrees firmly. The Norns haven't finished weaving your thread yet. Dawn finds your fleet slipping quietly from the harbour, oars muffled with cloth to reduce noise. You stand at the prow of the lead ship, your armour gleaming dully in the early light. Beneath your mail shirt, you wear a padded tunic embroidered with protective runes. Your sword, the one that has tasted blood on 3 continents, hangs at your hip. Your shield, freshly painted with your raven emblem, rests against your leg. The attack is planned for dusk, when Ivar's sentries will be distracted by the changing of the watch and the preparation of evening meals. As your fleet approaches the designated fjord, scouts in small fishing boats confirm that Ivar's ships are indeed anchored there. 18 vessels visible, with more possibly hidden around the bend of the coastline. You signal for the fleet to hold position in a hidden cove while final preparations are made. Warriors check their weapons one last time. Archers prepare fire arrows, their tips wrapped in oil-soaked rags. Ship captains review their assigned targets. The tension is palpable. Every warrior knows what's at stake. As the sun begins to sink toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of flame, you give the signal. The fleet moves out, still rowing silently, taking advantage of the deepening. Shadows along the shoreline. Your ship leads the way, guiding the others toward the unsuspecting enemy. The first fire arrow arcs high into the twilight sky, your signal to attack. Suddenly the quiet is shattered by the thunderous battle cry of hundreds of warriors. Oars churn the water to foam as your ships surge forward, closing rapidly on Ivar's anchored fleet. Chaos erupts. Fire arrows rain down on the enemy ships, setting sails and deck structures ablaze. Your vessel rams directly into the side of what appears to be Ivar's flagship, the impact nearly throwing you from your feet. With practiced efficiency, your warriors throw grappling hooks to secure the ships together, creating a bridge for boarding. You're among the first across, shield raised against the hastily organised defence. The deck beneath your feet is slick with sea spray, and soon with blood as you cut your way through surprised defenders. Your sword moves with a will of its own, finding gaps in armour, slipping between ribs, severing tendons. Around you, your warriors press forward, driving the enemy back toward the stern. Across the water you glimpse other battles unfolding, ships aflame, warriors locked in desperate combat, the sea itself seeming to boil with violence. The plan is working, but the enemy is recovering from their surprise more quickly than anticipated. Ivar's men are experienced raiders themselves, and they fight with the ferocity of cornered wolves. Then you see him, Ivar Blackbeard himself, a mountain of a man wielding a massive axe, rallying his warriors amidships. Your eyes meet across the chaos of battle, and in that moment, you know this confrontation was inevitable. The man who sought to claim you through marriage now faces you as an enemy on the field of battle. You fight your way toward him, cutting down 3 warriors who attempt to block your path. Ivar watches your approach, a grim smile visible through his matted black beard. The famous Shieldmaiden, he calls as you come within earshot. You should have accepted my proposal. Now I'll take your head instead of your hand. You'll find one as difficult to claim as the other, you reply, settling into a fighting stance. The duel that follows becomes the stuff of legend. The towering warlord with his great axe against the Shieldmaiden with her sword and speed. Ivar's first swing would have cleaved you in half, had it connected, but you slip aside, letting the axe bite deep into the deck planking. Before he can wrench it free, you strike, your sword drawing first blood across his forearm. He roars in pain and anger, abandoning the embedded axe to draw a say-axe from his belt. The fighting becomes close and desperate, a lethal dance across the blood-slicked deck. His greater strength is balanced by your superior speed and technique. For every powerful thrust he makes, you counter with 2 swift cuts. Both of you soon bear multiple wounds, none immediately fatal, but each taking its toll in blood and stamina. The battle around you seems to recede, warriors on both sides giving space to the duel that may determine the war's outcome. Through the haze of exhaustion and pain, you're dimly aware of Leif's voice shouting warnings. Ivar's reinforcements are approaching, cutting their way through your forces to reach their leader. In this moment of distraction, Ivar lands a punishing blow with his shield, sending you staggering backward. You lose your footing on the bloody deck and fall hard, your sword spinning from your grasp. Ivar looms above you, say-axe raised for the killing stroke, triumph in his eyes. But a Shieldmaiden's training never truly ends. As his blade descends, you roll, not away but toward him, inside the arc of his swing. The say-axe bites into the deck where your head had been an instant before. Now inside his guard, you draw the small knife concealed in your boot and drive it upward with all your remaining strength, finding the gap beneath his mail where neck meets shoulder. Ivar's eyes widen in shock and pain. He stumbles backward, blood pulsing from the wound in time with his heartbeat. He's not dead, the knife wasn't long enough to reach his heart, but he's grievously wounded. As his men reach him, they abandon the fight to drag their leader to safety, retreating to one of the few ships not yet ablaze. The tide of battle turns decisively with Ivar's fall. Without their leader's driving presence, the enemy's resistance crumbles. By midnight, the victory is complete. 12 of Ivar's ships destroyed or captured, the remainder scattered and fleeing up the coast. The alliance he forged is shattered, its component parts now vulnerable to individual defeat. You stand at the prow of your ship as dawn breaks, watching the smoke rise from burning vessels. Your body is a catalogue of pain, a deep cut along your ribs, a gash across your thigh, bruises everywhere, an exhaustion so profound it makes even breathing seem an effort. But you are alive, and you are victorious. The red threads in your braids are now indistinguishable from the blood that has dried there, as if your mother's weaving and your own sacrifice had become one. Word of the victory and your personal defeat of Ivar Blackbeard spreads rapidly throughout the Norse lands. The remaining battles of the Fjord War are almost anticlimactic. Without Ivar's leadership, his allies, including Gorm Blacktooth, who falls in a subsequent battle against Hakon the Red's forces, are defeated piecemeal over the following months. By your 26th year, when peace is formally established at a great thing, attended by representatives from all the Norse settlements, your name has become legendary. Skalds compose elaborate verses about your duel with Ivar, each version more dramatic than the last. Children play at being you in mock battles. Young women from traditional families begin to request training with weapons, inspired by your example. The scars you carry from the Fjord War are both physical and spiritual, reminders of how close you came to death and of the lives you took and saved, but they are also badges of honour, marks of a shield maiden who faced the greatest test of her time and emerged victorious. Your saga, already remarkable, has now secured its place in the history of your people. The decades that follow the Fjord War transform you from a living warrior into a living legend. As you move through your 30s and into your 40s, your direct participation in raids gradually decreases, not from any diminishment of skill or courage, but from the evolving nature of your role within Norse society. You become something more than just a shield maiden. You are a symbol, a leader, a bridge between the old ways and the changing world. Your 30th year brings an unexpected development. Hakon the Red, whose respect for you has only grown since the war, proposes a different kind of alliance. Not marriage, but a formal partnership between your settlements. This arrangement, unprecedented in its recognition of a woman's independent authority, establishes you as a jarl in your own right, with lands and warriors sworn directly to you rather than through male kinsmen. The ceremony formalising this status takes place at midsummer, when representatives from friendly settlements gather to witness your elevation. You stand before the assembled crowd, dressed not in feminine finery, but in your battle gear, polished mail gleaming in the sunlight, your sword at your hip, your shield bearing the raven emblem, now recognised throughout the Norse lands. The only concession to the occasion's formality is a circlet of silver set with amber that rests upon your brow, signifying your new rank. The horse feller no longer rides with my warriors, Hakon announces, using your battle name with obvious respect. She leads her own, with my full support and alliance. Let all who value their lives and property remember this. This public declaration serves multiple purposes. It cements the political alliance between your settlements, acknowledges your personal accomplishments, and sends a clear message to potential enemies that you remain a force to be reckoned with. It also, though neither of you explicitly states this, finally puts to rest any lingering possibility of a marriage alliance between you. Your relationship with Leif evolves as well. Though you never formalise your union through traditional marriage, both of you valuing the freedom and flexibility of your arrangement, your partnership deepens with the passing years. He continues to captain his own ship, sometimes raiding independently, sometimes coordinating with your forces. When in the settlement, he shares your hearth and bed without ceremony or explanation needed. Children never come. Whether from the physical toll of your warrior's life on your body or simply the will of the gods, you cannot say. But you find yourself surprisingly at peace with this reality. Some women birth children, your mother once told you. Others birth legends. The gods rarely grant both. As your fourth decade begins, a new threat emerges on the horizon. Not rival Vikings, but the spreading influence of the White Christ from the south. Christian missionaries begin appearing in Norse settlements, speaking of a single God who demands exclusive worship and forbids the raiding lifestyle that has sustained your people for generations. Some settlements, particularly those with extensive trading contacts with Christian lands, begin to convert. Others resist violently, killing missionaries and doubling down on traditional practices. You find yourself in the complex position of navigating this religious and cultural shift. Unlike some of the older Jarls who reject Christianity outright as a threat to the Norse way of life, you take a more measured approach. Having seen many different peoples and their customs during your raiding years, you understand that survival sometimes requires adaptation. We've always taken what is useful from those we encounter, you argue in council meetings. Their gold, their techniques, their crops. Why not consider what might be useful in their beliefs as well, without surrendering our own strengths? This pragmatic stance, neither embracing conversion nor rejecting all contact with Christian influences, becomes your political hallmark in later years. Under your leadership, your settlement maintains its martial traditions while establishing more stable trading relationships with Christian territories, a balance that brings prosperity without complete cultural capitulation. Your personal fame continues to grow, spreading even beyond Norse territories. Traders from distant lands arrive specifically seeking audience with the legendary Shieldmaiden. A Byzantine merchant presents you with a finely crafted glass vessel, claiming that tales of your duel with Ivar Blackbeard have reached even the Emperor's court. An Irish monk come to preach Christianity, but clearly fascinated by Norse customs, requests permission to record your life story, though you decline, preferring to let the skalds maintain your narrative in the traditional way. As you enter your 5th decade, your body begins to show the accumulated toll of your warrior's life. Old wounds ache in cold weather. Your sword arm, while still strong, lacks the lightning speed of your youth. You adapt your fighting style accordingly, relying more on experience and tactical thinking than raw physical prowess. Young warriors still train under your guidance, absorbing not just techniques, but the philosophy that has guided your life. That one's worth comes not from gender or birth, but from courage, skill, and honour. In your 48th year, word reaches you that Ivar Blackbeard has died, not in glorious battle, as he would have wished, but from infection in the wound you gave him decades earlier, which never properly healed, despite the efforts of healers from many lands. The news brings complicated emotions. Satisfaction that your blow ultimately proved fatal, yet a strange emptiness at the passing of your greatest adversary. You order a blot, sacrifice, in his honour, acknowledging a worthy enemy in the Norse tradition. May he find his place in Valhalla, you declare, raising a horn of mead, and may he recognise me when my time comes to join the Einherjar. That same year brings another significant change, when Leif, returning from what he declares will be his final raid, presents you with an extraordinary gift, a finely crafted runestone, already carved with the beginning of your saga, but with space left for future achievements. The stone shows you in your prime, shield raised, sword drawn, with the raven of your emblem soaring above. The accompanying runes tell of your birth under the Valkyrie sign, your early battles, your duel with Ivar, and your leadership during the Fjord War. So your name will live forever, Leif says simply, his hair and beard now more silver than gold, his face weathered by decades at sea. Even when we feast in Odin's hall. The runestone is erected at the crossroads near your settlement, where travellers from all directions will see it, and perhaps ask for the full tale of the Shieldmaiden whose image it bears. It becomes a local landmark, with parents bringing children to touch the carved figure for luck before their first weapons training. As you move through your 50s, you gradually transition from active warrior to elder stateswoman and advisor. Your counsel is sought not just in matters of war, but in trade negotiations, dispute resolutions, and increasingly, in navigating the complex relationship between Norse traditions and the encroaching Christian world. You become known as much for your wisdom as for your former battle prowess, a development that amuses you considering how you once valued only martial skills. On the eve of your 60th year, an age few warriors of your generation have reached, a great feast is held in your honour. Warriors who once fought alongside you, now grey and scarred, travel from distant settlements to pay tribute. Skalds perform elaborate compositions detailing your exploits, some accurate, others wildly exaggerated, all contributing to the legend that has outgrown the woman. Young shield maidens who have followed the path you pioneered present themselves to you for blessing, their eyes shining with the same fire that once burned in yours. As the celebration reaches its peak, You slip away to the quiet shoreline where your journey began so many decades ago. The same stars wheel overhead, the same waves lap at the rocky beach, but everything else has changed. The world, your people, yourself. You've lived to see your own legend take shape, to hear your deeds recounted as history and myth intertwined. Few warriors are granted such privilege. Leif finds you there, as he has so often at crucial moments in your life. Though age has bent his once straight back and slowed his warrior's stride, his eyes still hold the same steady light that first won your trust in childhood training sessions. Regretting any of it? He asks, lowering himself carefully beside you on a drift log. You consider the question seriously, as has always been your way. The pain sometimes, the losses, never the path. He nods, understanding without need for elaboration. You sit together in comfortable silence, two warriors who have shared a lifetime of battles, both physical and otherwise. The northern lights dance above, green and purple curtains shimmering across the night sky, just as they did on the night of your birth, when the Völva claimed you bore the mark of the Valkyries. Whether you will die peacefully in your bed, or find one last glorious battle, remains for the Norns to decide. But this much is certain. Your saga is secure. Generations hence, when the great longhouses have fallen, and perhaps even the old gods are forgotten, skalds will still sing of the shield maiden who carved her name into history with courage, blade, and an unwavering spirit. Your life, extraordinary in its defiance of boundaries and rich in both struggle and triumph, will echo through the ages, inspiring others to forge their own paths regardless of the limitations others would place upon them. This is your true legacy, not just the battles won or enemies defeated, but the boundaries broken and the possibilities created for those who follow. In a world that offered women narrow paths, you claimed the open sea and distant horizon as your birthright. And in doing so, you became not just a shield maiden, but a legend whose name will never be forgotten as long as tales are told around fires on cold northern nights. As our journey through your life as a Viking shield maiden draws to a close, imagine yourself in your final years, seated by the hearth fire in your longhouse. The flames cast flickering shadows across walls adorned with shields, weapons and trophies from a lifetime of adventures. Outside, a new generation trains in the yard, some of them women following the path you blazed decades ago. Your body bears the marks of your extraordinary life. Scars from countless battles, tattoos faded with age, but still telling their stories of protection and power, joints stiffened from old wounds and the natural progression of time. Your once wheat-coloured hair has turned to silver, worn now in simpler braids than the complex warrior styles of your youth. But your eyes remain sharp, missing nothing, and your mind is a treasure house of experience and wisdom sought by jarls and common folk alike. You've witnessed tremendous changes in your lifetime. The isolated raids of your youth have given way to more organised trading expeditions. Some Norse settlements have accepted the White Christ, building wooden churches alongside their traditional sacred groves. Others maintain the old ways fiercely, seeing themselves as the last true keepers of the faith of Odin and Thor. Your own settlement has found a middle path, adapting where necessary, while honouring the traditions that shaped your people's identity. Leif, your lifelong companion, passed to Valhalla 3 winters ago, not in battle, as he might have once wished, but peacefully in his sleep after a day spent teaching his grandnephew to repair a ship's hull. You marked his passing with both traditional rites and your own private grief, feeling his absence like a physical wound that time has softened but never fully healed. Your days now have a different rhythm than the battle-paced existence of your earlier years. You rise with the sun, your movements deliberate as you kindle the morning fire. You supervise the training of young warriors, your critical eye still able to spot a shield held too low or a stance too narrow. You sit in council meetings, your voice carrying the weight of decades of experience. And sometimes you simply watch the sea from the headland, remembering distant shores and the salt spray on your face as your ship cut through unknown waters. Visitors still come from far and wide to meet the legendary Horsefella. Some are disappointed to find not the fearsome warrior of the sagas, but an aging woman with gnarled hands and a thoughtful expression. Others, the wiser ones, recognise that your greatest strength was never merely physical, but resided in your indomitable will and strategic mind, qualities that age has only refined. Young shield maidens particularly seek your guidance, arriving nervous and eager to hear from the woman who made their own paths possible. To them you offer neither romantic glorification of battle nor discouragement, but honest counsel. The path of the shield maiden is neither easier nor harder than other women's paths, merely different. You will bleed, but from wounds of your choosing. You will serve, but gods and glory, rather than only hearth and husband. You will create, but legends rather than only children. Choose with clear eyes, fight with full heart, and never apologise for claiming your place in the shield wall of life. The runestone leaf commissioned continues to stand at the crossroads, joined now by others that record subsequent chapters of your saga. Your diplomatic achievements, your role in preserving Norse traditions while adapting to changing times, your mentorship of a new generation. Together they ensure that your name will echo through the ages, your deeds remembered long after your physical form has returned to the earth. As twilight deepens and you prepare for sleep, you reflect on the life you've lived, a life of extraordinary freedom and terrible responsibility, of bloody triumphs and heartbreaking losses, of boundaries shattered and new paths forged. You regret none of it. From that first wooden sword your father placed in your small hands to the legendary blade that now rests across your knees, you have walked the warrior's way with honour and purpose. The hearth fire burns low, casting your shadow large against the wall of your longhouse. Outside, the northern lights dance across the sky. Odin's warriors riding to battle, as your mother once told you. Soon enough you will join them, but not tonight. Tonight you are still here, still the shield maiden, still the legend in her own time, still the woman who chose her own fate and carved it into the world with courage and steel. Sleep now, with the knowledge that your saga, your life as a Viking shield maiden, will never truly end as long as people hunger for tales of those who dared to define themselves beyond the boundaries others would impose. In that way, some part of you will always be standing at the prow of a dragon ship, wind in your hair, sword in hand, sailing toward adventure and eternity.